Alright, so this is the 2019 Gateway Cup. This is stage one. This was on Friday, on Labor Day. Looked like the weather was going to be clear for us the whole race, and then all of a sudden, bam, the rains came in. Two races after ours were actually canceled completely because it was pouring rain. I mean, just dumping rain. It was pouring for us just in the last little bit of our race. There was lightning in the area, but not near us, so they kept the race going. So we're down to the last few laps here. This is as you can see, almost a perfect square. It goes around Lafayette Park in downtown St. Louis. Quite a few riders showed up. I think we had 73 start with us on this race. Quite a few probably didn't want to race in the rain. Very aggressive. Some of the best Masters racers in the country, for sure. Some of the fastest racing I've ever done in Masters fields. So this is the last stretch before the final stretch into this finishing straightaway. So it kind of goes up a little hill and then drops down. So we're dropping down to the final turn here, which is pretty fast. There's non-stop attacks, very aggressive riding. My teammate Bart was with me. He was behind and sitting in third place for the Gateway Cup. I'm sorry, for the Masters Cup, which is a year-long competition for Masters racing in the 40 plus and the 50 plus. And he was sitting in third place behind Randall Cogsworth, and Hunter East is in first. And if he placed well or won each one of these races, that would give him the lead, and he could actually take the lead for the Masters Cup, which has a pretty decent payout, has a trophy, t-shirts, a really well put together competition by Pablo Santa Cruz out of Florida, who really wants to unite Masters racing across the country. So the three events that they started with this year were the Tour of America's Dairyland in Wisconsin, which was in June, and then I think in the end of June and July was Intelligentsia Cup in Illinois near Chicago, and then of course Labor Day weekend is the Gateway Cup in St. Louis. Very famous race, been going back 33 years. That's Rob White just to the left of me with kind of the checkered orange and white kit, ABD Cycling. He won Toad. I think he also won Intelligentsia, if I'm right, in the 40 plus. There's Sharon Smith right in front of me, probably one of the fastest sprinters in the country. Scott Moninger was here, ex-pro, super fast, probably the most dangerous 50 plus rider. He had a teammate, Chris Hari, that had crashed, who was also, they were both ranked number 1 and 2 in the nation for 50 plus riders. That's Scott right there in front of me in the black and orange. Very talented rider, ex-pro, multiple wins. As a pro rider on multiple different pro teams. So I am definitely, I want to stay near the front, but I also want to make sure that I can try to help Bart and do as you know, at least win the 50 plus. We weren't sure who the 50 plus riders were to watch out for. Of course, Scott and his teammate Chris were definitely threats. We didn't know this at the time, but his teammate Chris had crashed previously in this race. There was a crash on the finishing straightaway that took out quite a few riders, and his teammate actually crashed and broke his arm or his elbow, I believe, so he was out for the series. As far as the rest of the 50 plus guys, it was hard to tell who was who. We ended up meeting some of them, a bunch of great guys, but as far as who to watch for competition, so I guess we just decided just to try to win the race outright. Our average speed for this race was, I believe, somewhere around 27.5, which for wet, slick, rainy conditions with downhill turns was actually pretty fast. That's Emil Abraham to my right in the red and black. There's Bart Holleran in front of me at Monster Media, always a fast rider. It's coming into the last few laps. Carlos Casali is also another rider from Meteor X. He was here with some teammates, Tim Strelecki, Mike Hagney. All those guys are just class riders, super fast. Hunter East wasn't here this weekend, so that's why I think Bart was really keen on trying to win. That's Bart right in front of me with the yellow bar tape. He's getting himself in a good position. So what I'll do is just, if there's any dangerous breaks off the front, I'll stitch them back up, chase them down. The course itself, it looks like it's just a flat square, but it really wasn't. The first turn, after the first turn, was a false flat, gradual uphill, which at speed definitely didn't feel good. And then after turn 3, there was a little riser, and then that dropped down to the finish. The finish was essentially kind of a downhill. Yeah, see, there's just attacks going non-stop. I had been in a few breaks. I actually got in a really good break with Sharon Smith, Bart Holleran, Carlos Casali, Scott Moninger, and we were rolling pretty good, but the field was just, they were just on it. So I'm definitely gonna stitch up this dangerous break here, because we can't let this get away. We want to keep it together for a sprint, because that definitely suits our riding styles. There was quite a few guys that did not want it to come down to a sprint. So there's 4 laps to go here. It's a pretty dangerous move going up the road there. These two guys are definitely working hard together, trying to get away. So this is the false flat going up the hill here. Just trying to keep on top of the pedals. As long as you keep your momentum going, it really didn't slow down too much. We're still able to keep 25. So I'm like wanting some guys to help out here, so if then finally some guys come through, and I'm gonna try to just stay close to the front. There goes Sharon, there goes Rob White, all the players. There's Emil Abraham. All the players are coming to the front now. I know Bart's behind me. We definitely communicate with each other. If it comes down to a pack sprint, I'm just gonna keep it fast and steady so that he could stay in the front, because a lot of times what happens with these big wide open courses like this is, if there's no teams, it ends up bunching up a little bit until somebody attacks, and then everybody's going full gas to the last corner, and then it's just nuts. If you can keep it fast and steady and strung out, and there's Bart right there, right in the front where he needs to be. So I'm kind of communicating with him, letting him know that I'm here. So we're going into 3 laps to go now. Guys start swarming. As soon as the pace slows down, guys start swarming. It's just kind of frustrating, because you've done so much work the whole race to stay in the front and be in a good position. And there's guys that are tail gunning that just swarm to the front then when the last few laps happen. I'm just waiting for an opening to get back up to the front. 3 to go. Pace is still pretty high though. You know, for the most part, other than that crash on the straightaway, the bike handling skills in this race, in race this one and race 2, were actually pretty impressive. I was actually never really scared. I trusted the guys around me and their ability levels. I like to just move up through the middle if I can, instead of burning up all kinds of matches going around the outside. There's always gaps that open up. You can just slide right through. So now I'm, without doing hardly any effort at all, I'm already back towards the front. And if I really wanted to stomp on it, I could just get right back to the front if I needed to. There's Sharon right next to me. We communicated quite a bit too, because he knows that Bart and I are always up there in the sprints. That's the one good thing about racing with people that you know, because you know their ability levels, you know what they're going to do, and they're very predictable. It's a lot of these other guys, we don't know who they are. I don't know who the sprinters are or who the breakaway guys are. We ended up learning that throughout the 4 days of racing. Okay, so I finally got an opening here, so I'm just going to move right up to the front, get set up for the final laps. There's 2 laps to go. This guy here ends up being really strong. He really helps keep the pace strung up for me, especially on the last lap. So there's a couple guys off the front which I really need to close. We don't want a break to get away. I'm just trying to keep it hard and steady. I'm trying to get some guys to help me out here. But of course it's coming into the sprint, so nobody wants to help. So I'm essentially just being a good teammate. They see that they're caught. That's Carlos Casali. There's Rob. We'll be coming into Bell Lap here. So they're keeping the pace going, which is great for me. I'm right in the front. There's Sharon tightening up his shoes. That's kind of his trademark. Alright, here we go into Bell Lap. This is it. We got Dave Toll and Frankie Andreo as our announcers. So we're going 35 into this final turn in the wet. Just hoping that our tires stick. And they did. Alright, so now we're going up to turn 2 with 3 turns to go. This is a great spot. I'm sitting right behind the fastest sprinter in the country. But of course what you're going to see is a lull, and I can't let a lull happen, because if it does, there's Bart right up there with me. Sharon knows that I'm here, Bart's here, I see my guys there. I see this guy from Intent. He's going to go and just start stringing it out, so I'm just going to get on his wheel as we go into turn 3. This is perfect. He's got it strung out. So what I didn't realize as we hit this turn, the storm was coming in. There was this big wall of wind right here. So my hopefully 35-mile-an-hour lead out into the final turn ended up being the best I could muster was 30 as we're coming up this little hill, and then we're dropping down. And so I'm like trying to go as hard as I can, and there they go. And then Mike Hagney goes around me with Emil and Sharon, Rob White, and there's Bart. He made it up there. So they're going to hit the final turn, and they're going to light the burners. And Bart ends up getting third. Emil gets first. Sharon drops his chain and ends up getting sixth. I ended up getting second place. I'm sorry, I got third place in the 50 plus by just keeping my speed up here. So that was my first podium of the weekend. Bart gets first place, third place overall on the stage, which is a really impressive finish. That's it for stage 1. Stay tuned for stage 2 coming up.